Pero muchas gracias a todos por sus donaciones. Ay, van a hacer llorar.
Tesla Cybertruck has been kind of an enigma. It was revealed 4 years ago, almost to the day. And ever since then, it was kind of quiet, but then we slowly started seeing them rolling around like California a little bit, and then a couple in Texas. And these are like prototypey Cybertrucks, and they were testing. Turns out one of them was me. Well, for a day anyway. So what we have here is a near final Tesla Cybertruck. It's not an actual delivery truck yet. It's still one that they've been testing. So there's some small prototypey things here or there. But everything that I'm about to show you is what's going to show up in the customer's delivery trucks starting basically right now. So I've learned a lot about this truck in my time testing it. There are some surprising things about it, some features that are really cool, things that I think truck people are really going to like, but also some concerns that I have, some surprises. Buckle up, there's going to be a mega video, get subscribed.
Y aparte es que aguanta balas de 45 y de 9 milímetros. Ah, esos güeyes creen que la rebanan mucho con su camioneta balaseada. Papi, a ver, la gente de Culiacán, mándenle fotos a esos güeyes para que vean cómo se ven las camionetas bien balaseadas. No, hombre, ¿qué les pasa, güey? Está muy chido el volante sí me gustó bastante.
All right, first things first, let's get to the specs. Everyone wants to know the official numbers, everything on paper. And it's funny because we'll get to this in a second, but some things have actually changed from the show truck that showed up on stage, including the overall dimensions. I'll get to that. But the stuff that you probably care about is the basics like price, range, speed, right? So there are going to be 3 configurations of the Cybertruck. This one that we're looking at here, which you can't tell by looking at it, but this is the triple motor version. It's not quite the same as the Plaid powertrain, but it is 2 in the rear, 1 in the front.
¿Dónde fue eso, Edu? Yo me acordaba de esa madre, que un alcalde había pedido esas cosas para la policía. Yo no lo veo mal, ¿eh? O sea, que la policía tenga buenos vehículos, hermano, no lo veo mal. Solo que pues deben de tener como que la línea correcta para que cuiden esos vehículos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, acá yo estaba platicando con un director de seguridad de aquí, de uno de los municipios de Nuevo León, y él dice que para que los policías cuidaran los autos, crearon un programa en donde los policías se quedaban con el auto, güey, en determinado momento, o se les vendía a un precio así muy significativo. Entonces, con eso lograron que todos los autos de la policía siempre estén impecables, güey, porque dicen los güeyes, a ver, espérate, cabrón, si yo me quiero quedar con esta madre, la tengo que cuidar, ¿no? Entonces les daban servicio, no los traqueteaban tanto, o sea, está perro. Entonces yo no voy en contra de que tengan vehículos caros. Yo creo que una camioneta de estas está a toda madre para atrapar gente, güey. Haces off-road y muchas cosas. Pero pues está cabrón, ¿no? No tengo para comprar una madre, pero no se la encuentra fea la camioneta. A mí no me gusta, güey. No me gusta la camioneta. O sea, no me gusta la forma. Se me hace demasiado cuadrada. O sea, le pudieron haber echado 10 pesos más de diseño que agarraron pinches raspayelos. La verdad, siento yo, güey. Tantito, págale un becario, no sé, güey. Que le haga 2, 3 líneas ahí medias coquetonas. Adrián Cama, muchas gracias por la donación. Julián, gracias también por la donación. Silver, creo que gracias por los 10 euros. Motundra, también gracias por la donación. Decos, gracias por la donación. Mi estimado Siris, gracias por la donación. Papu Zenitsu, gracias por la donación. Pink Floyd, gracias por la donación. Mary, gracias por la donación. Abraham Cueto, gracias por la donación. Mi estimado Prime, gracias por la donación. Dacos, gracias por la donación. Venga, gente, venga, que se puede. Hay que juntar más lanita. Tuner, gracias por la donación. Estaría perro llegar a los 100,000 varos, güey. Estaría perro, así. Sería como que yo no puse meta. De hecho, puedo poner una meta. Pero estaría muy HD llegar a los 100,000 varos, gente, para poderles regalar un poquito a los niños que les falta. Ok, pero muchas gracias a todos que están donando. Ok, bueno, continuamos.
And it's going to be able to do 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, an 11-second quarter mile. It's got about 845 horsepower. It has torque vectoring at the rear, and it's absurd. They call it the Beast. It's a pretty ridiculous set of
¿Hay
specs. I
meta?
think
No,
that
yo no
makes it the
puse meta.
fastest production
¿Por qué
pickup
puso
truck
meta eso, güey?
factory ever.
No, similar. Ah, pues denle, güey. No, pero entonces nos falta mucho. Ahora, gente, saquen la cartera.
But there's also going to be a dual motor version that they also start to ship early, and eventually also a single motor rear wheel drive version. The triple motor is going to start at about $100,000. So this is new information. We kind of had a much lower idea of what the price was going to be at launch. This is a $100,000 truck you're looking at. Expect somewhere around $75,000, $85,000 for the dual motor version, and then the single motor will be further down the road. But the dual motor is still 600 plus horsepower.
800 caballos es mucho, pues imagínate.
That's the general basics. And as far as...
Mete 800 animales en tu cuarto, güey, para que veas si puedes. Pues obviamente. No, sí tiene 845. El peor es que son entregados por motor eléctrico, güey. Entonces esos 800 caballos son así, mira, de un madrazo. Muchas gracias, mi estimado Deus, por esos 50 euritos.
Range, we'll get to the wheels in a second, but it's about a 340-mile max range from the absolute most efficient version of this truck. Now, a couple other last numbers things that I think some truck people will appreciate. First of all, towing capacity and bed capacity. Those are some things that Tesla's told me. I'm gonna put the numbers up here. I think it's 2,500 pounds for the bed.
400 kilómetros.
And we also measured the truck because officially it's about 5% smaller in every dimension from the original show truck, the prototype that people have been seeing on stage. So I measured it from front to back, and it's about, from bumper to bumper, 224 inches. We happen
o sea, si tuvieran la lana, ¿no se la compraban? Digo, yo sé que la tienen la lana porque aquí puro billetudo.
So we'll talk about that.
It
does actually have side view mirrors. They're removable, and they've kind of done all that they possibly can to make it able to be removed. Like, you can take this off. It has to ship with this from the factory legally. But there is blind spot monitoring lights inside the truck. There are cameras here on the side of the truck to show you that spot when you put your blinker on. So you could just pop this off if you really wanted to. And then also down at the side here, these wheels, this is an aero cap that is removable. So let's just do that to start. This is the premium tire that's going to come on a 20-inch rim. All of the initial trucks, triple motor, dual motor, they'll all have this tire on it. Looks like it's a bespoke Goodyear tire. It's got some neat little aesthetic tweaks and I'm sure compound tweaks and treads.
Y luego el ring más feo que pudieron diseñar.
This is a plastic aero cap with like this outside rubber. It's actually a two-piece, and it'll get you a couple % more range on the truck. But if you don't like the look of it, or if you're off-roading, pop that off, and that's how the truck's stock wheel will look.
El pinche ring de stock de esa madre que la
grease
tapa
and
esa
metal in there.
culera.
But this is a two-part thing, like I said, so if I can rip this off, these are the two pieces. And the reason it's two parts is because they actually wanted these to line up with the little rectangles on the tire. So maybe you want to take the aero caps off to air down the tires and go off-roading and you want maximum brake cooling, whatever you're doing. But if you want to put these back on, you sort of line all this up. And then you take the plastic bit.
Dice, si quieres que tu ring se vuelva a ver feo, güey.
Now you're back. Get a shot of this. Get a shot of my... So I'm going to probably not do that again, considering everything it just left on my hands. But you get the idea. You can do that on all four tires, 20-inch rims. These, again, are the premium tires, and... yeah. Okay, great. Moving on. So, okay, you kind of can't really tell the story of the Cybertruck without that sharp corner piece of stainless steel right there and right there. Cool. But then the other version of that conversation is like, look at how sharp the front of some of these pieces here, how sharp it is. Not that you're gonna like walk up and poke the front of someone's truck very often.
Este güey, no se le notan las manchas. Espérate, perro.
But that's a sharp corner piece of stainless steel right there and right there.
Este güey.
And then this front piece here.
Respeta.
It's this one huge big stamped piece. And I had a couple conversations with people, engineers at Tesla, about using stainless steel on the body panels like this. And they have these huge presses that are stamping the stainless steel.
No mames. Ya me lo estoy imaginar, le hacía así, dice, chinga, sigue manchada, güey. Valió madre,
But
güey, no.
steel has this sort of a spring back effect. So you use a lot of force to stamp it in place, and then it springs back really quickly. So you have to stamp further than you need to get it to unspring back to the part that you want it to be at. It's a whole complicated thing. All of that is to say, I've seen a bunch of Cybertrucks while I've been here, and they all have slightly different levels of panel gaps, build quality in general. This truck in particular that we're looking at, it actually looks great. I'm not going to say it's micron levels of precision or anything like that, but generally panel gaps all the way around are pretty small, pretty even, looks really good. But I don't know if I can promise that for every truck. Like even just this huge front piece here.
O sea, yo no sé si el diseño ese ayudará para algo en específico.
Line, so
el Spartan Grabs de 30
I'm not an expert on it, but I'm just saying this is a truck you're probably not going to care too much about looking exactly perfect panel gap wise. All right, the next thing we got to talk about is the Cybertruck's trunk, aka the truck bed. There's a lot going on here actually. Look at this gigantic grande, ¿no? Slope. It looks like a dump truck to me, but one thing you should know is, first of all, a dampened opening for the tailgate, but it's not a power opening tailgate, so you will have to manually close the thing, but it is a nice soft damp. And then the other side is the powered tonneau cover. Oh wait, I should do the thing. They told me it could support up to 300 pounds. So.
150 kilos puedes poner arriba de esa madre.
They told me I could do it, so here we are. I'm not going to jump, but I'm told 300 pounds of force from somebody standing on 1 foot. So I think if I jumped, I could probably break the thing. But the fact that I'm standing on it and it's not breaking,
que no le cabe una
that's
bici.
pretty good. And it's a motorized tonneau cover, which means pretty smooth, I gotta say. Now, once you're here, there's a bunch of stuff I gotta talk about with this trunk. First things first, you probably noticed it slid down and revealed a rear window, which means number one, yes, there's a rear window. It doesn't go up and down, but at least you have that glass there. And two, yes, that means that when you close the tonneau cover, you are completely blocking your rear visibility. We'll get to that later. So, the other thing you probably noticed is when we first saw the Cybertruck, I did a video about this on the autofocus channel. The bed was just like bare stainless steel. It looked kind of sick. It looked crazy. But you'll notice now it is fully lined. Tesla said they took it out and talked to some construction people about it and were like, all right, what do you think of this truck? What do you think of the bed? And they were like, this is awesome, but the first thing I would do is spray line this so I could not damage it. So they just figured they would line it themselves. Nice thick lining here. The official length of the bed for the F-150, the Lightning got over there, was 66 inches on paper. Now when I line this up here, I get all the way to 72 inches, so it's a solid 6-foot bed. But there's a little bit of overhang over here, so if I subtract a little bit to account for that, it's about the same, 66 inches. And there's a little bit of a sub-trunk, which is pretty cool to see. So a lot of EVs now have a sort of a sub-trunk area. This one, no different. You can definitely fit duffel bag in there, probably a full carry-on bag. And there is a drain plug, so if you want to make a cooler out of it, tailgate is a pretty good vehicle to do that. There's also some bed lighting. You can see on the left and right, there's lots of lights, and there's also this sort of a latch system, so all sorts of latch points where you can tie things down with cable.
Es que está cabrón, eso es un punto importante, güey. La verdad es que los Teslas, hermano, tienen chingos de lugares donde guardar pendejadas, contrabando, todo lo que da, güey. Los asientos los levantas y hay hueco ahí. Abajo de los tapetes de los asientos de atrás, abajo de los tapetes también hay cajuelitas. O sea, hay un chingo de lugares, güey. La neta. La DVD, mi estimado XSXP, XA, a su pinche madre. Las por 5 euros. Muchos thank yous. Con razón la policía, ¿no? Está acá. Twitch, Twitch donó, Twitch donó, gente. Donó Twitch, güey. Donó Twitch, donó mil dolaritos, güey. Muchas gracias, Twitch. No, y ustedes con sus bromas. God damn it. Twitch, no estábamos diciendo nada, fíjate. Estábamos viendo a este muy, muy buen mozo muchacho explicar un poco acerca de la troca, nada más se manchó y estaba limpiando, ¿no? Y ya, ¿no? Solo borrar el chat, no, huevo, eso, pues otra donacióncita, muchas gracias. René Forres, también muchas gracias por la donación. Check TV, gracias por la donación. Muy bien, ¿cómo vamos, gente? ¿Cómo vamos? A seguir donando, digan los papaces, mamaces, hermanaces, todos, gente. Para poder juntar lo más que se pueda, güey. ¿Cuánto llevamos? Llevamos 4,275 euros. ¡Órale, perros! ¡A donarle!
What you're probably noticing, though, is there's no spare tire, no spare wheel. If you do want one, you can buy one separately and tie it up in the trunk, but you don't get one by default. And then the other thing is,
pues es que trae llanta ronfla de esa madre.
There's power in the trunk. So 220 volts here and one 240 volt. If you want to charge a vehicle with a 9 kilowatts out, you can use literally the thing you'd plug into a dryer outlet. You can plug that in here, plug it into a vehicle, and give battery to another EV.
Chido,
so just in general, I'm glad that more EVs are doing this.
Si vas a acampar así como el Alfalta 90 y así,
charge, you could actually theoretically power your house with this if you had the right inverter. But 11 kilowatts out of the charge
sí, port, no, nadie ha hablado de contrabando.
kilowatts out of the 240 volt on board.
Y mucho menos en un Tesla.
I should also mention, small detail, bottle cap opener over there, and then some more mounting points for cables and things like that. That's the truck bed.
Oh, claro que aquí la gente chambea, güey.
There's some lights that we'll talk about in a second, but let's close the tonneau cover.
Y aparte no solo la gente chambea, saben que yo no les pido nada, no les pido donaciones, nada más les digo cuando se me ocurra a mí ayudar a alguien o lo que sea, espero su apoyo y siempre han respondido, cosa que lo valoro mucho y como comunidad siempre nos ha dejado muy arriba de todas las demás, güey. Por mucho, por más que nos criticaron en algún tiempo y así, güey, somos la comunidad que más ha ayudado gente, güey. Beso grupal al chile, güey, deberíamos de babearnos entre todos, estar desnudos restregando nuestros cuerpos. Pero como Twitch está aquí, gente, olviden lo que dije. Digo que podemos sacar otros 1000 lados en Twitch. Ándale, don Twitch. Mira, ahí hay un güey que se llama Brave. Tiene una promoción ahí en tarjeta. A lo mejor y le funciona. Ya se fue, no hay pedo. A huevo.
Oh, something I just noticed. If you press the button, it does the whole thing. Or if you hold the button, it goes until you let go. That's a lie. It was doing that up until that point. See? Wait.
Europeo.
Okay, this is weird. It didn't do it that time.
Okay.
Handles eventually. It's got a nice thunk to it. Whole door. And then you close it. The auto-presented windows, they all close themselves up here. They're frameless windows. That's cool. It works. Same thing actually back here. Smaller button. You press it. It opens it. And it works. And this is actually a full 90-degree door. I love that there's like stainless steel in here. It's very clearly all metal. It's got a nice thunk to it too. But what I've noticed, and this is something you'd already be thinking
¿Se habrá
about
basado en algo del DeLorean o algo por el estilo?
Or if it's raining, or if it's frozen, if there's like an inch of ice over here, is this gonna work? Tesla's telling me, and this is a California company that tells me these things, but they're telling me up to an inch of ice, if you can break through that ice and press this button, it'll push with enough force to open it and break the ice off. I hope that's true. That's debatable, we'll see. But the other thing about that is I think a lot of people are going to open it down here on the stainless steel, and you can see the fingerprints go so hard when you open it like that. And because there's no door handles, there's not really a good way of telling someone how to get in. So a lot of people are just gonna grab it right there and fingerprint. Look at, it's just tons of fingerprints on the side here. So I don't know, there's gonna be a lot of Cybertrucks floating around with lots of fingerprints around the place that people's hands go to open the doors. All right, front of the truck here, couple things that are of note. First of all, if we go down low, this plastic bumper, pretty solid, but also there's two tow hitch rigs on the front, which is awesome. There is a front camera for the first time ever in a Tesla, believe it or not. It's useful on a truck like this where you can't actually see over the front. Then you have this huge daytime running light, but also the headlights, the actual headlights are just these slots down here. I'll show some night. You'll see some night driving footage, so you'll see what the headlights look like. Another thing everybody's been asking about, and I've seen mostly on Twitter, is there actually a front trunk in here?
¿Han visto el nuevo Prius? Cambió muchísimo. A mí el Prius se me hacía el carro más feo del planeta, pero ahorita el nuevo, la verdad es que se ve como se debe de ver un auto futurista que es eléctrico y así, güey.
If so, how big is it? Yes, there's a front trunk, and it's automatically opening, so you just reach in and push the button in like that. And it's a pretty shallow front trunk, I gotta say. This is also the part where I feel compelled to mention that I haven't seen a single Tesla logo yet on this entire truck. It's mostly branded with Cybertruck in this kind of a welded text, which is kind of cool. But it's a pretty shallow front trunk.
Primo el que aprendió a soldar.
You're probably seeing much too shaded right now, so it's kind of tough to understand how big it is, but it's only maybe the size of 2 of these Ridge suitcases. So I'm gonna put 2 Ridge carry-ons in the front of this thing. See if I can actually fit both. Because this is basically the exact size you'd want for like an airplane overhead if you actually had to travel with stuff in the front trunk. Could you fit it? Not quite. It's really close. I think maybe you might have to do...
Le falta mexicanidad, mi amor. Como que no cierra, güey. Como que no va a cerrar, papi. Agarritas.
As long as they're behind this seal, I think I'm good.
No le sabe.
Take 2. Okay, so that's basically your exact limit, is 2 Ridge carry-ons. Shout out to Ridge Roof. So wherever you go, if it's raining, you're good. And if you want a matching Ridge wallet, it literally comes in the same colors. So you've got royal black, alpine navy. Base thing you notice is the only curve in the entire interior is this steering wheel. And yes, it's a wheel. It's not a yoke. I'm pretty sure when they first showed the car, one of the big things they showed was it had a yoke, and it had this crazy like marble shelf at the front.
Ese era una de
now
las
it's looking
carteras,
a lot more normal car-like, but there's still a lot to go over. So first of all, this glass canopy from the nose of the car, basically all the way back to right in front of my head, is the single largest piece of glass in the entire automotive industry.
O sea,
yo tried to order a piece of glass this big for your house.
O sea, está fea, güey. Eso no hay manera de arreglarlo. Pero yo siento que con unos buenos rines así, bien mamalones, yo creo que la levantarías bastante, güey. Y quitarle, es que estas madres de plástico tampoco me gustan, ¿no? Estas pendejadas se me hace que están de más, güey. En todo caso, meterle algo un poco más off-road o algo así, güey. Pero esto siento que todavía la hace verse más culero todavía. A lo mejor estas no, güey. La de las salpicaderas. Pero esta y los estribos yo siento que sí, güey. ¿No? Pintarla. Nada, es que pintarla sería romperle la madre, pero... Pues rapearla, güey. ¿No? Vea, después la pinche gente es bien ojete, güey. O sea, imagínate una bolladura en esta madre. ¿Cómo se la quitas, güey? Se va a ver toda la vida. Está cabrón, ¿no?
House would be a big piece of glass. But this is the biggest windshield we've ever seen. And it kind of is this nice dramatic canopy when you're just like looking around, and visibility in the truck is very good. You also have these
a ver si a Tuntún que me la repare, pues él es herrero. Es correcto.
Sunshades that are actually pretty big, and there's this nice, look at this magnetic connector up top to get that in place. So that's cool and everything, but aside from that, no other curves. Lots of straight angles and triangles and things like that. A good amount of door storage. So I think you can fit probably 2 water bottles in there. There's some tray storage up here. Then you get up to here, and there's all 4 window controls. The door latch to electronically open it, but also the emergency door latch open. So if you lose, you kind of return over the cabin camera. And there would normally be, this is one of the prototypey things, but there would normally be a regular rear view camera here. Now, as I mentioned, you don't actually get to see out the back from the mirror if your tonneau cover is closed. But there also is no camera option for that rear view mirror to turn into a feed from a camera. Instead, that will always be on the screen. And I think I found that it's actually fine. You just sort of train yourself to
qué raro no
glance
tener
at the top of the screen instead of at where the mirror normally is, but that's something to note. And one more thing, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, huge tinted roof over your head, all the way back over the passengers' heads, and a ton of speakers. Not a single curve to any of the speaker grills, but there are speaker grills all over this cabin, and they're all either trapezoids or squares. Okay, something I've just realized. I thought that it was required that the only actual physical button you need in your car is the hazards button. This truck does not have a hazards button. It has a touch-sensitive
no mames, allá arriba están los
but then there's also your park, reverse, neutral, and drive gears, if you actually want to change them, up above your head. I've never seen it there in any car, ever, actually. Typically, it's right in front of you with the paddle shifters or your gear selectors, and you can still do it on the screen like you can in other Teslas, but that's new.
Gracias, Tigmaya, por los 50 euritos. Míralo.
Okay, now, the back seat of the Cybertruck. It's weirder than you think. All right, first of all, I like that the doors open 90 degrees. You get the seat back in front of you. Really good rear legroom. Mostly because the seat in front of me is on these cool Cybertruck looking rectangular risers, but that means I have real space to put my feet under the seat in front of me, which is huge for legroom. So either side, totally fine. Middle, not the best legroom ever, but still a totally great back seat. Got another screen back here that I'll show you in a second. There's a little bit of seat back storage, but check this out. There's a little trick to the back seat, just for storage. So although you already have a front trunk and a rear trunk, if you want even more covered storage with this latch right here, the right seat actually comes completely up, and you can just keep stuff down here if there's no person here. Matter of fact, the left two seats, come over here, also do the same thing. I'm gonna get out and pull that latch as well. And then that's a ton of room for activities. Look at this. Not that that's better than having a seat, but you could put a bunch of boxes back here. You could put, I don't know, you could just put stuff back here. Also, there's the 9.5-inch screen for the passengers, which is where I discovered you can move the passenger seat, not the driver's seat, on the screen. And these are also heated left and right, not middle, but heated left and right rear seats. They look ventilated, they look cooled, but they don't do that. Just heat. Or you could just like watch a movie or direct your airflow.
Es el futuro, gente.
Cool. Okay, so whenever you're talking about a new vehicle like this, a new platform like this, you got to talk vehicle controls. So as I'm in the driver's seat, that's going to be this new 18.5-inch touchscreen in the center, biggest ever in a Tesla. It's also their biggest ever car. And this steering wheel, which I got a lot to say about it, but you're going to notice it looks pretty familiar to any other Tesla, but they have made some key changes that I think I actually like a lot. There's still no stocks. There's still no blinker stocks, still no drive, reverse, all that stuff. But the buttons on the steering wheel are at least now haptic, like actual buttons. They're not haptic touch controls where you touch it and it vibrates to simulate a button. No, it actually clicks and moves this time. So that's awesome. So at least that's better. So that's the blinkers on the steering wheel. That's your headlights. That's your giant windshield wiper, which I'll talk about. And your voice controls. You still got your wheels up and down for volume of media and your autopilot controls. And then this sort of a flat squircle, I guess is what you'd call it, like a squared off circle type thing for the steering wheel. Oh, and then it's a real horn this time. There's no like button on the steering wheel horn like in my car. So I really appreciate that. Also, again, no Tesla logo on the steering wheel. It's a Cybertruck like trapezoid silhouette type thing. So again, I think the only Tesla logo on the whole car is
dice que te digan que necesitan una Cybertruck.
Same as every other Tesla.
Digo, nacer no creo, pero por ejemplo, Marcelo fue creado, bueno, según nuestra teoría, fue creado en un Jaguar, en un Royal Court, se llama el hotel, güey. Ya no existe, creo ya le cambiaron el nombre, pero según hacemos cuentas mi esposa y yo. ¡Ahí te hicimos, hijo!
But that brings us, of course, to the new software. So I think they've done an actually really, really good job with the software in this all-new Cyber UI. So if you've used a Tesla before, it's laid out the exact same way, but it's all themed in a very Cybertruck way. But there's some new little things that they've done. It's really well thought out, and I still, honestly, after using it, I really feel like Tesla has the best software in the car industry. that's not CarPlay and Android Auto. So first of all, you start with just this huge Cybertruck in the middle for all your vehicle controls. There's little hovering dots, so if you want to open the tailgate or open the tonneau cover, you can do that with any of these little hovering buttons. Open the charge port flap, charge port flap, cool. But then all of the rest of the looks about this car, you can adjust in real time.
O sea, como que...
So first of all, ride height.
Como que un día me levantaría y diría, no mames, está bonita, y el día siguiente diría, no mames, está bien culera.
You can also go low, medium, or high, and it adjusts super fast. There's a pretty awesome 12 inches of suspension travel between the lowest mode and the highest mode. You can go all the way up to 17 inches of clearance in off-road mode. Extract mode is the absolute highest. It'll add another 80 millimeters of clearance, but it'll go a foot down from that. So that's pretty sick. And there are aluminum skid plates / aero shields at the bottom of the truck. I continue to move around. If I lower the window, for example, look at the window on the car. Halfway down, halfway down. I go all the way down on this window, all the way down on that window. So that's real time.
Para que sepas que tu ventana está abierta.
In real time. I have the headlights down here. If I even turn the steering wheel, all of that moves in real time, and it's kind of on this like Mars terrain, Cybertrain, whatever you want to call it.
No más
I
que
think
mueve
that's
las
sweet.
llantas.
So you just get a full overview of the car there. You've got your media, your navigation. It's telling me
sí,
if
sí,
I
no
need
te
to
das
close my
dar
door
cuenta
or
de que
fasten my seatbelt.
por dónde está entrando
And
el
this is my
aire,
range
¿no?
indicator up here.
Y ya volteas a ver tu pantalla.
Right now,
Tengo mi ventana abierta.
Is 76% battery. Pretty close to what I'm expecting.
Muy buena.
And then you see your navigation, which basically if you just swipe over, you can fill that right 2/3 of the screen with navigation and keep your vehicle controls on the left. And when you're in drive, that looks just like it normally does in a Tesla with other stuff on the road. But now you have all your navigation stuff. You always have all your stuff in the dock down at the bottom. Heated steering wheel with 2 levels, which is nice now. And your heated and cooled front seats, which is great. So if you just get into controls and dynamics, these are sort of the two spaces you'll spend the most time. Controls is all of the things with just opening and closing, unlocking, screen brightness, headlights. Your glove box is a drawer, which I think is a little bit unique. A button on the...
Esto siempre me quejé para abrir los Teslas. Para encontrar este pinche botón, güey, para abrir la puta guantera, güey. No, es un puto pedo. Tienes que meterte a menús así, hasta que llegas para abrir esta madre, güey.
Screen, I kind of wish you still had a button to open the glove
Carlos,
box.
gracias, 42
all of that is
mesitos.
here. And then dynamics is where you have all of your typical like steering and acceleration profiles for Tesla. So in the triple motor version, that would be comfort mode,
Te la compraría,
standard mode,
Chile, no.
and beast mode.
La había apartada y la cancelé.
Crazier than the design, crazier than the sharper. It feels way more nimble in memory of grabbing the top of the snorkel. Useless. So first of all, the rear wheel steer, it's awesome. It's up to 10 degrees in the opposite direction of the front wheels at low speeds under 40 miles an hour. And what that does, if you've heard of this before, it effectively shortens the wheelbase and allows you to turn way, way tighter. I think we'll do a sort of a comparison with the F-150 Lightning, which is a normal truck that doesn't have 10 degrees of rear wheel steer.
And
this one,
asistida
it just means you can
wey.
turn way sharper. It feels way more nimble in parking lots. It feels like it shrinks the wheelbase, the whole dimensions of the truck. It's great. It takes some getting used to, but it's very useful. And then at higher speeds above 40 miles an hour is when it actually changes 1 or 2 degrees in the same direction as the front wheels. So that's going to feel more like lengthening the wheelbase and a more stable movement.
Según yo, el Stone sí la
apartó. Lanes at highway speed, stuff like that. But the fact that your entire steering radius is right there in less than one turn, like half a turn, is crazy. It takes some getting used to. It is awesome that you can turn around so easily and make those tight parking lot maneuvers and make this big truck feel smaller.
Casi como el F1 o el simulado.
It's really,
es 360
it's a lot.
El volante.
It's going to take some getting used to, but I think we should just get to driving this thing. So let's do it. Let's drive the Cybertruck. All right. Driving.
No, el precio de entrada ya subió. Creo que la entrada era en...
Feels like a Doug DeMuro way to start the video,
como
but
60,000.
man, okay. It still doesn't really feel like a real vehicle, but it definitely is. And first impression really is, well, okay, it feels like a Tesla. That's not going to be a shocker. Really instant throttle response. This is the triple motor version. It's the beast. But also like spacing wise, I'm just looking around, just trying to feel how big this vehicle is. This is a small road, school bus. I'm able to maneuver around though. I have pretty good visibility everywhere. I'm just thinking a lot about where the nose of the truck is, because it is such a short nose. It's a really different,
Gracias, McLaren, por los 25
ratio. I'm not used to the hood being that short compared to where the windshield is, but either way, it's pretty quiet. I will say these laminated windows do a good job of sealing out all the noise. They also happen to be shatterproof. The truck also happens to be allegedly bulletproof. I'm not testing that in this video, but you've seen the pictures. So the idea is it's really well built. I'm just trying to figure out, all right, this feels nimble, right?
Pero están de acuerdo que eso que digan que esa prueba es una pendejada porque pues está hecha de metal, güey. O sea, debería de, por la placa de metal, aguantar normal. Es como que, o sea, como que es una información necesaria, güey. ¿No? Es como que, pues sí, güey, pues a lo mejor muchos otros autos que tienen, o sea, que tienen sus puertas de metal, pues no hay pedo. O sea, aguantan balas, nada más que pues muchos ya tienen, no sé, partes de fibra de vidrio, fibra de carbono, pues ahorita es diferente, güey. Pero pues siento que es como que...
The weight's not going to change, so this is the way it always is.
Como que le quisieron agregar así, güey, ¿qué más? ¿Cómo madre lo hacemos para venderla más?
They're not going to be used to the entire steering being less than an entire turn. It's a half a turn, 180 degrees. I think it's 170. And it is a pretty big truck, but I feel like it's a tiny bit smaller than the F-150 Lightning. I think they did a good job of giving you as much space as you can. Like, this is a spacious cabin, spacious back seats, as I showed you, and a full 6-foot bed, but it's got the smallest frunk, even smaller than the smaller Rivian R1T. So they've kind of pushed around the dimensions a little bit. But second thing is just the vast distance between me and the front of the windshield. And then I just straight up can't see the front of the car. I can't see the nose, no matter how high I look. That's just different, very different. Something I'm gonna have to get used to. Okay, love that the button blinkers are actually physical buttons, and now we're on a bit of a crazier road, so we can... Holy... Come on. That's crazy. Actually, the suspension pretty firm right now, and there is a large delta between the...
Mira, a lo mejor si hubiera tenido las calaveras como las trae la Escalade, que es así a lo vertical, y no esta pinche línea horizontal, güey. Siento que esto se ve feo, güey. Igual estas lucecitas acá, güey. O sea, como que esto no.
Firm right now, and there is a large delta between the firmest suspension and the softest suspension that you can have. The body itself, thanks to the stainless steel, thanks to the way it's built, is very, very stiff, torsionally stiff. It's very rigid, and so all of that effort to be either soft or firm goes on the suspension. And they have really good suspension, really good travel, really fast travel. It really is very quiet.
Cabrón, pero para un fan de Halo es la mamada, güey. Tienes un Warthog en la vida real.
If in the ice or the snow, if it's going to be able to like break apart enough ice to move that huge windshield wiper. There's probably a much bigger motor to move
it. A la verga, no me había fijado en... A su puta madre, no me había fijado en esto, güey. No chingues, qué cosa tan fea, güey. El limpiabrisas, no man.
Works. So, Neil, if you're wondering, it doesn't quite cover the entire windshield, but it does go above my head and cover 75% of what the passenger's going to see too. So I feel like it's working at least. And then the other thing to note is for your road tripping, totally compatible with all the Tesla superchargers. It has all of the autopilot stuff that other Teslas have, but it's also now an 800 volt architecture. And what that basically means is it's able to charge faster at V4 superchargers, and it's able to make total wires thinner because they conduct better and they're more efficient, and so the total wire weight of the car goes down for all of the high voltage systems. It also has a 48 volt low voltage system, which is 4 times the normal 12 volts you'd see in most cars. So in general, it feels future proof for that reason, but it'll still charge just the same as any other Tesla at V3 and V2 superchargers. A little more road noise too. You noticing a little more all-terrain tread coming through to the cabin. These bespoke tires, I'm told, do have...
por el precio que tiene, no, güey. La verdad es que ahorita Las pickups sí están muy bonitas, güey. O sea, para comprarte esa mamá. O sea, si lo que quieres es una pickup, güey, mejor cómprate una pinche Ford o la Ram o algo por el estilo. Esta madre no, está bien fea. O sea, está la otra. O sea, está el modelo X. Que bueno, que en algún momento, en algún punto de la siguiente semana, debo de tener ya acceso a él. Y yo quiero ver esa camioneta, qué pedo, es la que me llama la atención. Porque es como que la más espaciosa, las pinches puertas, a ver qué tan fácil realmente es utilizar una camioneta que se abran las puertas para arriba, la comodidad, o sea, todo ese tipo de cosas. Pero ya esta madre no. O sea, al principio como que sí me lo que dije, se ve chida, pero de ahí ya la cancelé. Cancelé la orden. Y dije, ni para qué. Y aparte de aquí a que lleguen, güey. O sea, esta se va a empezar a producir la más galleta. En el 2025 supuestamente empieza a entregar las otras, güey. O 2026, o sea, no mames. Es mucho tiempo. Y se anunció en el 2019 la troca. O sea, imagínense, güey, todo lo que tiene que pasar. Yo no sé por qué este güey, no sé si es para generar más hype o lo que sea, pero siento que anuncia los coches mucho antes. Está el pinche roadster que todavía no lo ha podido sacar. Y para venderte el roadster tenías que dar los 4 o 5 millones de pesos que costaba aquí en el país. O sea, ese era tu apartado. Oye, no voy a tener 5 millones de pesos ahí por años, güey, esperando a que me entregues el vehículo cuando quieras, ¿no? Está cabrón. Y ahora otra cosa que me fijo de la camioneta, güey, es que tiene materiales, o sea, se ve, por lo menos en el interior, se ve que tienen ciertos materiales corrientes, güey. O sea, daría la impresión. Y eso es algo normal de los Teslas, por eso es que son baratos, o sea, han bajado de precio. No cuidan mucho el detalle, no cuidan mucho la calidad de las cosas. Entonces, o sea, digamos que es una mezcla de componentes muy caros con componentes muy baratos. También así medio locochón. Hicieron un crash test de la Cybertruck y en dónde, Spirit, ahí, donde la chocaron. Pues además de atravesar una casa, ¿no? Un edificio. Creo que tengo que ver que el diseño del anuncio de Halo y el de GTA sean iguales. Nada. No, fue porque trolearon. También Fall Guys sacó uno, güey, del estilo y así. O sea, andaban troleando a todo lo que da, güey. Sí, es puro mame. Mi estimado, Ay, espérame. Lalor, gracias por la donación. El Tanian también, gracias por la donación. Obion, gracias por los 6 mesecitos. Mi estimado Tericiado, gracias por esa donacioncita. Sam, gracias por 17 mesecitos. El Chef, gracias por 69 mesecitos. Antonio, gracias por los 2 mesecitos. Mi estimado Saquito de su, gracias por la donación. Valo, gracias por la donación. Cami, gracias por la donación. Sirius Black, gracias por la donación. ¿Cómo está Harry, güey? Mim Revin, gracias por la donación, hermano. Sabactani, gracias por la donación también. Sabarón, gracias también por la donación. Muy bien, güey. Vamos con todo. Si es un remaster, no va a ser un remaster, güey. No se arriesgarían a eso. No te preocupes, mi amor. No va a ser un remaster. A ver, Cybertruck, Crash Test. Cybertruck. Eso sí, el comercial que utilizaron del Porsche está bien mamón, güey. Está bien mamón ese pedo, güey. A ver, güey. O sea, que se vea cómo rebasa el Porsche mientras va remolcando otro Porsche. No mamen. Pero no, esa comparación es muy injusta, güey. Esa comparación no debe ser. No mames, es más rápida que un Porsche. La realidad es que estos carros son para cuarto de milla. A la larga ya valieron pito. O sea, no son lentos, pero cualquier coche o sea, de esas prestaciones les ganaría sin ningún problema. Pero pues obviamente por los motores eléctricos pues te entregan la potencia de un putazo. Entonces no es como que sea bien comparar a un 911 con esto, güey. Creo yo. Dalson, muchas gracias por los 15 euritos. ¿Qué onda, Sara? ¿Qué onda, Sara? A chisme. A la madre. Ay, güey. 35 millas por hora. Son 60 kilómetros. Ay, güey, sí se desmadró bastante, ¿no? ¿Cómo realizas una donación aprovechando que ya cayó la beca? Si estás en celular, hermano, ya no está el link otra vez. Maldita sea, güey. Bueno, ahorita vemos si se puede poner. Qué buen putazo, güey. Vea, pues se despedorró toda, güey. O sea, no nomás fue el frente, sino todo valió dick. Y fíjense cómo va pasando el putazo a través de todo esto. Yo siento que la descuadras. Ay, güey. ¿Y ya son las pruebas? No seas mamón, güey. Un poquito más de 30 segundos de video. No, hombre, güey. ¿Por qué se mueve así la llanta de atrás? Dice que tiene un rango de giro de 10 grados mientras vayas a menos de 40 millas por hora para ayudarte a girar. Para ayudarte a dar la vueltecita. Está chido, pero lo trae también la Homer nueva. O sea, la Homer sí me la compraría, por ejemplo. Es esta perra. Creo que se ve mucho mejor que esta madre. No está en el mismo precio, obviamente, pero la Homer nueva sí está chida, güey. Y este es el... Para los que no vieron esta madre. Mamadas, güey.